If we have not actually spent any time with you, then you're not invited to our wedding. Simple as that. I mean, I'm not inviting my, sisters, cousins, friend of a spouse, of a coworker, of whoever it is. That is not how we are planning this wedding. Hey there, and welcome back to Mini Urban Farm, a channel about gardening and homesteading in the suburbs. Now, today's video is going to be a tiny bit different than our normal videos. Usually we talk about gardening and homesteading and ways to save money and making money on your farm and all of that good stuff. But today we are talking about wedding planning on a small budget, because of course, if you're homesteading and you have a small budget and you're planning on getting married or you're engaged, then you're going to want to follow those same practices in order to not have a huge, overly costly wedding. So today I am going to be sharing with you my best tips for how to have a small budget, low cost wedding. Now, a bit of background. Alan and I have been together for 2 years now. We have previously both been married. My previous wedding was a small, low cost, budget friendly wedding. Alan's wedding, on the other hand, was a very big hoopla with about 150, 200 people there. And you can imagine it cost over 40 grand. Now, we have collectively decided that we are going to homestead and be frugal people in our relationship, so we are going to be planning this low-cost, low-budget wedding, and if that applies to you, then you are going to want to listen to some of these tips because they will be super helpful in planning your wedding. And that really comes down to money. So let's talk money. Alright, so let me start off by saying that Alan and I both work full-time. We both have jobs outside of the homestead, outside of miniurbanfarm.com, so we make a pretty decent amount of money for us, for our living situation, which allows us to budget for things that we want to spend money on. Now, we have been engaged for 2.5 months, but the majority of this money that we accumulated for our total wedding budget, which I will be sharing with you the actual amount, the amount of money that we saved up, we did it mostly before we were engaged, because we knew we were planning on getting engaged. What we did was we took the total amount. I'm responsible for half of that, Alan is responsible for half of that, and then we just broke it down by month until we got to our respective halves, put it together, and now we're able to pay for our entire wedding and honeymoon combined. Alright, so the total amount of money that we are spending on our wedding and our honeymoon combined is $15,000. That amount, I understand, is maybe more than some people want to spend, definitely less than a whole bunch of other people spend on weddings, but for us, wedding and honeymoon combined for $15,000 seemed like a pretty good amount of money. So we decided on that number. To be honest with you, it was kind of an arbitrary number, kind of not. We kind of ran some, general figures, what do I think we're gonna need for a wedding dress, a venue, for music, that kind of thing. I totaled it all up, and then we added what we think we're going to need for our honeymoon on top of that, and we added a little bit of a buffer in there and decided that $15,000 would be a good number for us. Which brings me to my first tip, which is to pick a number and stick to it, all right? You are going to have to run the cost that you think you're going to need for your wedding and then stick with that number. Don't allow yourself to say, oh, well, the normal wedding budget for, people in this country is, $30K or $40K or whatever amount of money it is. No, if you are working with a small budget, you're going to have to stick to a number that is comfortable for you so that you don't get into debt. We are paying everything out of pocket. We are not putting things on credit cards. We are paying everything in cash, no IOUs, no nothing like that. So we are, budgeting ahead of time, and out of that money that we have accumulated in this separate bank account for the wedding, we are taking that money and paying things as we are scheduling, the DJ, the videographer, all that other stuff. We are taking that directly out of our account and paying for it in full ahead of time. Which is coincidentally my second tip, to pay for everything ahead of time, pay for everything in cash if you can. Avoid putting things on credit cards, because at the end of the day, that $100 bill for the wedding could end up being $300, and accumulated, that adds up to a lot of fees, a lot of interest, and a lot of money overall. So budget ahead of time, save up your money ahead of time, and as you save up the money, then pay for things out of pocket. Number 3 is to have a small wedding. All right, this pretty much goes without saying, but a lot of people try to cram, 150 people onto a $10,000 wedding budget. And I'm sorry to say that is just simply not going to work. All right, if we were having 200 guests at our wedding, there would be a lot more expenses, mostly for the reception because people need to eat and food is expensive to feed 200 people. So we are sticking with a wedding guest list of 30 people. I think it's 30 people. I have to double check that one. It might be like 35 people, including ourselves, but that is it, all right? And my rule, which I was very clear on from the very beginning, was that if we have not spoken to you, if we have not spent time with you, if we have not seen you in person, face to face in the past 2 years, and we gave it 2 years just because of COVID, you know, with people traveling and all of that stuff, if we have not actually spent any time with you, then you're not invited to our wedding. Simple as that. I mean, I'm not inviting my, you know, sisters, cousins, friend, of a spouse, of a coworker, of whoever it is. That is not how we are planning this wedding. I want a very small, intimate wedding, not only because it saves costs, but because in my opinion, it's just nicer. And I think that if you are watching this channel, if you are familiar with our channel at all, we talk about homesteading and being frugal and all of that, you probably value a more intimate space as well. So having a small wedding not only helps you save that money for your small budget, but it also helps you to accomplish that very intimate feeling that you are surrounded by friends and family that actually care about you on your wedding day. One of the ways to actually keep your budget small when you are accounting for this very small guest list is to have a micro wedding. So this is a recent thing that has come, you know, more into popularity. If you search for micro weddings in your area, you're probably going to come up with some results. So the venue that we booked is actually, they actually have a micro wedding package, and that is the package that we decided to go with, and it includes everything that is, you know, kind of stuff that we need for our wedding day. And as long as we kept it under a guest count of, I think it was like 40 or 50 people, then that would count as a micro wedding. Next up is something that you're probably not going to like, at least somebody is not going to like this, which is to skip on the frills, all right? I know if you're having a wedding, you want to, you know, have your wedding napkins and your wedding this and your wedding that, and everyone wants to have, you know, 6 or 7 bridesmaids. But unfortunately, all those things start adding up. So one of the main ways that we have been able to save money and skip on, you know, that huge budget and that huge price tag is by skipping the frills. So we are not including bridesmaids, which means that we don't have to pay for hair and makeup for all of those bridesmaids. We don't have to pay for all of those kinds of things that tend to add up very quickly. That also means that we are not offering favors at our wedding. I am not going to be, you know, laying out displays of favors or little plants or little whatever it is to take home. You came to our wedding to spend time with us, and as far as I'm concerned, we had a great time and now it is time to go home. Most of those things end up somewhere in the junk drawer anyway, or they get left on the table at the reception venue. So I am opting to not have any of those sorts of things, which allows us to save a ton of money. All right, so number 5, which I think is going to be a little bit controversial here, but hear me out. It is to skip the bakery wedding cake. All right, so included in our package, we actually had a line item for a wedding cake. Now, at the very beginning, when we booked this venue, I asked her to please send me a breakdown of everything that was included on a line item basis. So the overall package, I think, was like 10,000 something, all right, which still gave us about 5,000 for honeymoon and, you know, other things. But that package did not include everything that we're gonna need. That package does not include a wedding dress or a tuxedo rental or any of those other things. So there's still costs that we had to account for. So my thing was, I wanted to see exactly what I was being charged for. So in that breakdown, I noticed that the wedding cake was a pretty significant line item and one that I was not prepared to spend that much money on. So I asked the coordinator at the venue if we were able to kind of tweak some of these things, if we didn't want to include this part of the package or that part of the package, if that was an option, and she agreed that we were able to take off some of those items, one of which was the wedding cake. Now, if you go to a bakery that does wedding cakes, you will likely be paying $200, $300 or more for a single wedding cake, all right, which I know that they're good, but they are not that good, especially because we wanted to include other desserts at our wedding. So we decided to go with the supermarket cake that looks just as pretty. We want something pretty simple to begin with, and that was going to reduce a lot of costs. So we're able to save a few $100s just by doing that, and the wedding cake that we are going to order from our supermarket will be about $100 or so for 30 people, which is still a pretty good amount, but nowhere near the $300 or $400 that they had included in the package. On that same note, the next tip is to break down the package line by line. If you're going with a wedding package, which I think is a great idea for a very low effort wedding, something that we decided to do, it was a one-stop shop because we have 6 months and we have very busy lives with the whole moving thing and building our food forest and our gardens and homesteading and all of the other stuff. We wanted something that was relatively simple and that we didn't have to be chasing around nonstop. So if you opted for a package like we did, then a great option is to see what is included in that package, what vendors are included. Can you substitute vendors that you know are cheaper, or can you just get rid of things altogether? For instance, like I said with the wedding cake, we removed that altogether, and we decided the same thing with the florist. Now they had allocated, I think it was like $1,000 to flowers, which I think is probably a good amount for flowers, but definitely not something that I wanted to spend anywhere near $1,000 on. And so we decided that we're going to do our own bouquet and boutonnieres and whatever it is else that will require flowers. And plus the venue itself has a lot of greenery in it. So we are opting to not spend $1,000 on flowers, which has significantly reduced the bottom line cost of the wedding. So break down whatever package they give you and see if that's an option to substitute them or to get rid of those line items completely and just do it yourself. Which brings me to do it yourself, all right? As simple as that. That is a great way to save money. When you start talking about a wedding veil, when you start talking about save the dates and wedding invites and all of this other stuff, anything that has the word wedding attached to it will just be marked up in price. A great way to overcome this is to just do things yourself, such as save the dates. So these are our save the dates. I'm going to just cover up here the actual place. So these are our save the dates, which I designed on the computer and I printed out at the local print shop. I think it was like Staples or something like that, for pretty much under $10. So you have the actual save the date, the envelopes, the postage included was under $10, which is for, I think it was like 16 or 17 save the dates. Now these were pretty inexpensive to make. They still look really good and they're actually printed on photo paper. So overall, $10, not too bad. And if you guys are actually interested in seeing how I made these and exact breakdown costs of these save the dates, I am more than happy to make a video on that. Just let me know in the comment section. All right, next up is to have an off day wedding. So we are actually not going to get married on a Saturday or a Friday. We are getting married on a Sunday. It just so happened to be that we wanted to get married in March because there was a lot of other birthdays and events that we have going on around that time, in April and February and all of that. And so we decided March would be a good time frame, and because of work, we only have certain times of the month that we can take off vacation. So it was going to be sometime in March, and they only had Sunday dates available. Now, at first, we were not thrilled about this because I wanted to get married on a Saturday, just like everybody else. However, when the girl from the venue showed me the price difference between the Saturday dates and the Sunday dates, we decided it was going to be a good idea to get married on that Sunday. We are going to just kind of opt for the Sunday wedding and then have a welcome dinner for all of our guests on the Saturday. So there will still be events going on, but the price difference was about $1,500. So we decided that, in our wedding budget, that money would be better spent going towards a dress or something else that we actually wanted. Next up is to not keep adding things on at the last minute. All right, at the beginning of our wedding journey, right before we got engaged actually, we decided we were going to break down all of our wedding costs and everything that we really need. We did a little bit of research, we added things that we thought we would need, we took things off that we decided we really didn't need, and then at the end of the day, these are the main items that we decided we are going to need. Nothing more, nothing less. So when you start scrolling through Pinterest and you see these, wedding napkins that have fun facts about the bride and the groom that you really, really want, consider if that's something you're going to want to spend money on, because they will have a hefty markup versus just using the napkins that the venue provides. Don't add in things at the last minute. Be strong and try not to include things that you decided at the very beginning you didn't want, and just stay focused on that overall goal. And I know this next one is going to sound a tiny bit harsh, but it is a great way to keep your budget and your guest list small. So right along with not inviting anybody who we haven't actually had a relationship with in the past year or 2 years or so, whatever that time frame is that you determine it works for you, just don't add plus ones, all right? When you have your save the dates or you have your invites, Do not add, you know, Mr. XYZ plus guest. Just don't add that. And if the person has a girlfriend, write out that name. If the person has kids, write out that name. It shouldn't be, at least for me, it shouldn't be Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so plus 2 kids. It should be Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so plus kid number 1, full name, plus kid number 2, full name. That way they know exactly who's invited. I did this on every single one of my save the dates. I will be doing the exact same thing on our invites. That way nobody is confused that it is a +1 or, you know, can they bring an extra person? The answer is just no. All right. If you have people reach out to you, can we bring an extra person because I don't know anybody else there? Sorry, you know me, and that should be enough because it is my wedding and you should focus on me. So that is probably going to be a controversial one, but it's a great way to not have extra cost incurred that you're unaware of. And if you are having such a small wedding, then you probably do not need a coordinator. A coordinator is something that was included in that giant line item breakdown from the venue in the micro package. That was about $800 for a day of coordinator. Now, we're only having 30 people total invited. That's not even to say that all of those people will show up. Now, I don't know about you, but we hang out with pretty much all those people on a regular basis, sometimes all of them in one space. And we've never needed a coordinator to tell everybody, hey, that dinner is ready, or hey, it's time for them to sit down. If you do need somebody to, you know, kind of like herd the cats, then you can have, you know, your best friend or your sister or family member or whoever it is say, hey guys, everybody move that way or move that way or whatever it is. But for the most part, if you're having a small wedding, you probably don't need a coordinator. So just do like I did and just remove that from the budget overall. All right, so the next one is to skip the word wedding, all right? And I'm not talking about like, don't have a wedding. I mean, don't fall for all the wedding napkins and the wedding decor and the wedding bubbles and the wedding sparklers and all of this other stuff. I promise you that that word has a huge markup associated with it. And the minute you start asking for wedding bubbles, they will be 3 times more expensive than the normal bubbles, all right? If you need wedding bubbles, just get them on the normal section, all right, and you won't have to pay for it. Or, you know, get normal ones and then add a little sticker that says, you know, our wedding or whatever it is, as a great do-it-yourself project, which we have actually also done. The same thing with wedding sparklers. They will be significantly more expensive because they are in the shape of a heart or in another cute little shape or whatever it is. You know, wait until 4th of July, wait until New Year's Eve, get some sparklers and be done with it. They're like 99 cents a box. So don't fall for that word. It will make your life significantly more expensive and it will blow your budget. All right, and my absolute best tip, and coincidentally the last one, all right, we're saving the best for last, is to be open-minded, all right? And in a very specific way. If you say, well, my wedding colors are baby pink and, you know, this color gold, and the venue doesn't have that, then you're going to want to take your money and go buy whatever napkins, whatever decor, whatever it is to coordinate with that thing. All right, instead of saying we have to have this color or this type of flower or this type of runner on the table or whatever it is, just be open to what's available. That will significantly cut so many costs because you're not having to be so picky and go out of your way to spend that money. So one thing that we did was we didn't really decide on a color. We just went with it. You know, obviously I like plants. This channel is about gardening, and we decided that there's just gonna be a lot of greenery, and then whatever color, you know, the venue had as far as their like table settings, then I guess that would be our color. And when we got there to pick out our decor, they had several colors to choose from, one of which was like a light blue gray kind of color, and we liked that one the best, so that will be our color. However, that is not going to be the only color in our wedding. We're just having a wedding. It doesn't have to be a theme or a color as far as I'm concerned. So when we like things that, you know, we would have otherwise bought, except they weren't in that specific color, we don't have to go order them in that specific color or that specific flower or whatever it is. Just be open to whatever's available because it will be significantly cheaper. And at the end of the day, nobody is going to say they hated your wedding because you had a mismatched table runner to the bridesmaids' dresses or whatever it is. Nobody cares, and if they do, then you probably don't want them at your wedding because they sound super high maintenance, and this channel is about frugal living and living peacefully. So thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope to do more wedding update videos as we go through our wedding planning journey. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.